And ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of the Smokin Tabacco Show. I am Matt Tobacco from SmokinTabacco.com, and I am joined once again by my good friend, Mr. Jonathan M. Carney from La Flor Dominicana and Hacking Gourmet. And I am also joined once again by the beautiful Smokin Nicole. And tonight we have a very special guest with us. We have the amazing JT, bringing sexy back. Not Justin Timberlake, the other JT. We have Jarrid Trudeau from Kristoff Cigars. Jarrid, welcome to the show.
What's up, everybody? How are you?
It's great. It's a beautiful day here in New England. It looks like it's a beautiful day down there in Texas as well. Just smoking cigars and talking cigars and shooting the shit. That's what we do every week, right?
Yep.
John, how you doing up there in the sticks, huh?
I just got back to the sticks, and I was down in New Hampshire just overnight, and I drove back today, and I got back. It's 7:02. That's why we're running a little bit behind, but we're here. I got a soap review lined up for us today. We got Dr. Squatch coming back with the Mars bar. I've been talking about this for weeks, so we got that going on. And we've got a good friend. I have a hard time not saying Justin Trudeau, even though I've known you now for like 10 years. But we do have Jarrid from Kristoff, which we're really excited about. I know you guys got a lot of unique things going on. You have a great perspective on the industry, so we're excited to have you on the show.
Oh, glad to be on, John. Glad to be on.
So, I guess what we're going to have to ask is, I had a pissed off Kristoff firecracker, and I thought I had it downstairs in my humidor, which I did. However, I was up here in February, and I smoked it. I remember I went back on my phone and looked at the picture. I smoked it in February, and I should have had the foresight to know that I needed to have my Kristoff down there for tonight's show. So I'm not smoking a Kristoff tonight, and I apologize. I'm smoking a Cameroon cabinet. What are you smoking? What is your cigar choice? You have a cigar named after yourself now.
Yeah, that's what I'm
regularly?
smoking. Yeah, that's what I'm smoking now. It's the JT Signature, and that's a project that I worked on for a couple of years. Anybody that knows me knows I probably have the wrong accent to be blending cigars. It's not something I grew up in. My dad didn't ride a donkey to school or anything like that, so it's not my forte. And I'm the first one to not go on the internet and proclaim to be some sort of master blender or something like that. That is not me. But Glenn, it was funny. We were at the trade show in, I think, 2018, and the guy who runs our factory, Rolando Villamil, who has been in the industry for 60 years or something like that, he came to the trade show this year, and he literally had a Ziploc like lunch bag with 3 cigars in it, and he was like, "Maho, I want you to try this." And so I lit it up and smoked it, and it was just like a fuma, like it was like just a blending cigar, but it had this HVA wrapper on it, which I really, really loved. Yep, that's the one.
I'm gonna
With
smoke
the bands on it and everything.
I'm gonna smoke this one tonight. Sorry, continue.
Yeah. So I really loved the wrapper, and Glenn was kind of like, "Why don't you do something with it?" And I'm like, "I just did. I smoked it. Like, what do you want me to do?" And he's like, "Well, see if you want to get in. It's gonna take me a while because I really don't know what I'm doing when it comes to blending. I know a lot about tobacco. I've been in the tobacco business for almost 10 years. I've been adjacent to it, but I've never done I've never lived there. I've never worked in the factories. I have no experience around that stuff. So if anything, it was a great technical exercise for me to kind of figure out what works and how to do it. So it took me 2 years. That's how little I knew about doing this. And it took me 2 years, and finally we came out with it and it was going to be a sort of like an event-oriented SKU. So it was going to be like, shops that I have a good personal relationship with. If you're, Bob's Bumfuck Tobacco in the middle of nowhere, you're not going to have any familiarity with me. I've never met you. accounts that do know me, that I've done events at, that I have a good personal relationship, they were going to be able to carry the cigars after doing an event with me to launch it. And then we ran into the buzzsaw of COVID, and I was not going to fly all around the country infecting the entire world. So I decided, I asked the reps, kind of, who do I like? Which of who do I like in your territory? And we put together a list of the accounts that I had good personal relationships with, that I liked, and those guys got the opportunity to carry the cigar. And now that things are loosening up a little bit, maybe I'll be able to fly around and do some more launch events and stuff like that. But Corona really put the brakes on the plan of having it be like an event thing. So that's kind of the story. And like the band has the Red Sox colors for the foot band with my initials on it and stuff. So there are some throwbacks to my roots in New England and things like that. They really let me do what I wanted with it. And so it was a really cool opportunity.
And, for anyone watching at home, if they were interested in buying this cigar, according to twoguyscigars.com, the JT Signature Toro is 6¼ by 54 with an Ecuador Habano wrapper, and it retails for $9.69 per cigar. If you head over to twoguyscigars.com, you can find them there, as well as many other Kristoff cigars from the collection. One of my other favorites that's on there is the Nicole's actually smoking.
Yep.
Is the Shade Grown Robusto, which is a great cigar, fantastic cigar.
Yep.
So yeah, head over there and check out Kristoff cigars and order some today. It's honestly, Kristoff's been one of those brands that it was one of the first brands I smoked, and it's a brand that I've been smoking since almost the beginning. And I've loved it. And the rep for our area used to be John Fozzie, and now it's Heather. But when John was in the area, I remember when these came out, I would hound him for him. I'm like, John, where are those JTs? Like, those are fantastic. And he's like, it's an event only. You gotta buy a box and all that. And I'd always buy boxes just so I could get the 4-pack of JTs. And then I remember he finally told me, he's like, hey, they're going to be in a box now. You can just buy them. I'm like, oh, thank God. They are also rolled N2 bar, I believe, right, Jarrid?
Yeah, everything that comes out of our factory is, except for the machine-made stuff, or the mix filler stuff.
The one thing I noticed about Kristoff is almost every cigar usually has, I say usually because there might be a few that are not, but almost every Kristoff cigar always seems to have the pigtail cap and the shaggy foot. And I feel like that's a signature touch on the Kristoff brand. I actually like it. I like when a cigar has that closed or the shaggy foot with the extra wrapper over the end. You first light it, you get a real mouthful of that wrapper right up front, which not a lot of cigars are. Most of them are that clean cut foot. And it's nice because you get a little extra sampling of that wrapper before you really start to get into the meat of the cigar, and it's always been a nice touch on your cigars.
Yeah, and that's kind of like early on, and even now to this day, kind of. You walk into a humidor and there's 800 facings of dead plants in a tube for $10, right? And it's like, how do you stick out? How do you differentiate yourself from the other cigars in the humidor? And early on during the cigar boom, when we were getting started, it was either like crazy packaging. Like, I don't know if you remember, there was that like CAO Vision or whatever, Ambrosia, that had the backlit box and everything that.
That was the CAO Vision, and coincidentally, they just brought that back.
Oh, did they?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. It's funny you mention that because that was always one of the examples. Yeah, it was backlit. It wasn't particularly well backlit, to be honest with you.
It was just a dull glow,
yeah.
But it was weird enough to where people were like, "What the fuck is this?" And it looked like a spaceship, the box and everything, the white box. So it was really you really wanted to differentiate yourself, and packaging. Could you do the elaborate giant like Gurkha treasure chests and shit like that? Yeah, you could do that. But we wanted to do something different. So we did the uncut foot, we did the fuma, the pigtail, we did the uncut tobacco around the the bundle in the middle of the box, and the rough cut cedar boxes, and it really set us apart early on when you're trying to, try to create some sort of branding for yourself out of nowhere. And now at this point, we've been around long enough to where we have the brand presence in the market where, maybe we could do away with the loose tobacco or something like that. But we like it. We like the way it's packaged, and it does add to the blend. Like if you're a golfer I always forget a cutter and everything, and you're picking the top off a cigar, and if you do it like a little bit wrong, then all of a sudden the wrapper unfolds and you're fighting with it the rest of. Well, with the pigtail, you can just kind of snap it off, and it's kind of like cut, So it still works. It still works for us.
Yeah, I always was a fan of the packaging too. Like you said, it set you guys apart. It was different. You talked about the rough cut, the cedar boxes. It gave it a real rustic feel. And the cigar industry, I feel, is an industry where, cigars, being, especially the premium cigars, being looked upon as like a luxury item. And you guys still delivered that luxury cigar, but you did it without trying to look so high and polished, like so many other boxes on shelves. It makes you kind of stop and go, who's this guy? And then you guys have the shelf talkers on the box too with the information, and it's really nice when you go into a cigar shop that carries Kristoff and you see the line presented. It's a nice presentation, and so visually it does look good. But obviously the cigars taste good as well. But yeah, I think you guys have done a really good job with that. And like I said, I've been smoking Kristoff cigars, since the beginning, and one of the things that always got me with them is they're consistent. And that's key with any cigar, really. I mean, they've always been good quality, draw well, the flavors are always good. I don't think I've had one that I really didn't like. Like I said, the JT's a favorite, probably the Shade Grown a second favorite. The Pissed Off I enjoy, but as we were talking about before, that packs a lot of nicotine, so I'm cautious when I smoke it. I only smoke it when I know, like, hey, like I can take this much nicotine right now. But like you said, we were talking a little bit about this before. The Pissed Off is a cool cigar because as strong as it is, it doesn't taste like a strong cigar. It's not overly bitter, harsh, but that strength will sneak up on you. And John was talking about the firecracker earlier. And I remember when those came out, it's such a little cigar, but I think out of all the firecrackers that have been made so far, I mean, I haven't smoked all of them. I've tried to get my hands on most of them, but that's got to be up there with the strongest. I mean, even that little firecracker in the Pissed Off blend was like, that one really blew me away.
Yeah, no, that's the cigar you have after you have a carny meal.
Oh, absolutely.
You have a carny steak. And or a hacking gourmet meal, and then you can get down a Pissed Off without getting lightheaded or anything like that.
There were two of the firecrackers that really kicked my ass. One was the Pissed Off Kristoff, and the other was the LFD one. And they were strong to the point where, like, I don't know how you were when you were approached with the firecracker concept. We were told to make the strongest cigars you could possibly make, right? So I remember the strength for me with the Pissed Off Kristoff firecracker was the same concept that the same experience I had with the LFD one, where like I felt it in the back of my throat, like
yeah,
like you'd feel it in your throat. You'd take a puff, and it was like, man, like you really felt the strength.
Like you're swing it, it's not smoke. It's like it's a thick boy. That one, it gets after you a little bit. Yeah.
I remember when it came out, I picked some up and I smoked it. I'm like, this would be cool, something a little different, whatever. And I smoked it. I'm like, wow, that thing's really strong, and it's the same feeling right in the back of my throat. So that's how I judge strength. Is where it's like, where on your palate do you feel the strength? I feel it on my tonsils.
Yeah. This is hitting that punching bag thing, and it's chewy. But I smoke a lot more mild stuff lately. My palate has really gravitated towards mild medium over the years, and that's kind of where I live now. Like you're smoking the Cameroon. I love that cigar, and that's kind of my palate. That mild medium kind of cedar spicy, toasty kind of profile. That's what I like. I'm not trying to get my ass kicked. I'm sitting out here, Game of Thrones on my projector, and I'm not trying to stand up and fall into a hole in my yard or something like that. You know, it's
It's interesting because you go around a lot of retailers and you spend a lot of time with consumers, and generally the real full-bodied smokers are the guys or the ladies that are sitting down to smoke. So they ask us, like, what do you smoke when you're on the road? I'm like, I don't smoke full-bodied cigars because after I'm done, I need to take a nap or I need to relax. I mean, you're in a shop for 30 minutes, 45 minutes, an hour. If you're smoking your strongest Kristoff every time, I mean, you got to get up and around and do things. I mean, it's just a reality. It does have an effect, and it's made to really relax you at the same time. So those stronger cigars, it's always the person sitting down like, oh man, I smoke six 8.5 by 60 Kristoffs every day, the pissed off line, and I sit them right here and smoke. Yeah, but you're sitting down enjoying that. I have to get up.
right. You're also retired.
Bar.
I have to go to the bathroom occasionally and stuff. I'm not trying to stumble around. Yeah, and start off a 5-hour event with a pissed off or something like that, and you're not going to be particularly friendly throughout the rest of the event because you're just thinking about you're checking your watch every 5 minutes trying to get out of there because you're tired.
I remember when John did the gourmet smoke session. Was that November when we were up at Two Guys when you did that one?
September.
It was the tomahawk night when you did the tomahawks, and I remember I walked into the shop, and this was way before the event, and I said, all right, I'm gonna smoke LFD. It's an LFD night, and so I'm sitting there, and there's a lot of good options, and there's a lot of cigars from LFD I smoke, but for some reason, I just had it in my head like, you know what, tonight's a digger night, and I remember grabbing a digger and being like, this is what I'm smoking tonight, and I smoked it, and that cigar, for those who don't know,
that'll last you till the ride home.
John, what dimensions on the digger for me really quick?
It's 8.5 by 60.
Yeah, so, I mean, you can imagine, that cigar lasted me like 4 hours. And by the time I was done with it...
It's called value, Matthew.
You walked upstairs. And I was like, really? I'm like, you're going to go this heavy? You're like, well, yeah, it's like, it's a special night, and I wanted something big. I was like, you didn't have to go that hard. But I don't know, do you with Kristoff, are your big ring gauge cigars king for you guys as well? Because it seems you're a niche market product. You're not the biggest, you're not the smallest. You guys are a nice medium sized, I would say, traditional boutique style brand. Does that carry the same weight? Is it the same thing you see with these other ones where it's big ring gauges are king for you guys?
Yeah, I mean it's our best-selling sizes tend to be either the Matador or the 6x60 of pretty much every, and the Matador is like kind of our version of like a Toro-ish. It's 6.5 by 56, and so it's a little bigger than a Toro, a little longer than a Toro, but people tend to gravitate towards, and I think that's probably because the majority of the cigars that we're really like known for are Maduro. They're all heavier bodied stuff, and I think the heavier bodied guys tend to like the bigger ring gauge stuff. In my experience, so I think it's kind of one thing leads to the other, but yeah, I mean we do well with Robustos and stuff like that, but I'm nobody's banging down the doors for a pissed off Lancero or something like that. It's although that would probably be good.
You guys don't
actually sounds kind of like a good idea.
Yeah, you guys don't make you don't make Lanceros, do you?
We make 8 Lanceros.
Oh, you do? Okay.
Yeah. So we have them in 8 different lines, and again, it's a size that like, if you see it and you're like in the right mood and you had the right lunch, you're like, oh yeah, that sounds good. But then like on a regular day, you grab a Robusto, right? Like most of the time, or a Toro or something like that.
Yeah.
So there are some Lancero smokers that are like, that's like a cult in and of itself, that they're like, that's what they like, that's what they're into. It's like the hipster size. But like the majority of smokers, I think, gravitate towards the more traditional ring gauges.
See, for me, like, it's funny. I'm like a big Lancero guy, and I know that Lancero is like a almost looked upon as like the redheaded stepchild of all the cigar sizes by a lot of manufacturers. But like as much as I
We
like,
love it. We love it. We love smoking it. They just don't fucking sell.
oh
I
yeah,
mean,
exactly.
it's like,
But
so it's like,
I like big ring gauge cigars too. Like I can go with a digger here and there, and I smoke a lot of 60 ring or 50, 54, 56. But just as much as I love the big cigars, I also love Lanceros. But at the same time, I'm not a huge like Robusto fan or like a Corona fan. It's either like skinny Lancero but long, or it's just all big cigars.
yeah.
I think they're fun. I think that if they're blended right, they can be good. And Lanceros they're a fun time. I just wish I don't know why.
And I think,
I wish people bought them more.
Ma-
You know, then
yeah,
more people would make 'em.
manufacturers love them. You know, we as smokers like them, I think. But it's just, you know, I mean, they sell, but they're just like, they don't sell anywhere near the levels that like a Robusto Toro 6x60 would sell.
Right.
You know?
Well, the challenge with Lanceros is, I mean, we just talked about how you guys talk about how you like them. I don't know how many Lanceros do you smoke a week.
Like none.
So yeah, so we love them and stuff, but we don't smoke a lot of them. So then you
Yeah.
tend to have a retail shop, and if you have somebody that really enjoys Lanceros, they may smoke, one or two a month. Excuse me, sorry, sneezing.
Wow.
The pollen. By the way, pollen up here is out of control. Up in Maine, it's just out of control. But anyway, so what happens is with Lanceros, someone wants a Lancero. They said, "Oh, I'm a Lancero smoker, so bring a box in and I'll buy them." So they buy one every once in a while, right? So they maybe smoke one or two a month. Well, guess what?
Yeah.
They smoke one or two cigars a month from a Lancero box. It takes 2 years to sell that box.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
It just takes longer time. So yeah, it's great. But if you have a bunch of people like that, you have size, and that's why we all make Lanceros, because there is a place for it. But that, 9 times out of, I'd say more than 9 times out of 10, you walk in the store, the Lancero, it's there, somebody asked for it, and then it's there every time you go in, and it's 1 or 2 gone each time you walk in.
Yeah. Yeah. And they'll have your Lancero, and then the next time they feel like a Lancero, they'll have somebody else's. But before you know it, you're decorating the humidor with a full box of cigars.
Mm-hmm.
It's that's not what anybody's trying to do.
So we have a couple of things tonight. We're gonna get to our news segment in just a few moments. We got sports to talk about, and Jarrid, you being a New England guy, I'm pretty sure I know where you fall on that. So this is gonna be a really good show. There's an Instacart order, and the lady's in the driveway, and she's like, "Hello, can I bring it in?" I'm like, "We're doing a show. You got to go to the front door." We also have a soap review. Now, John, I know it's not time for the soap review, but I know a lot of people know about the soap review. So I like to tease that. I don't want to get into it, but we're excited for that as always.
I'm really here for that.
Yeah, I mean, most people, Jarrid, look, this is the thing. People come to this show.
That's how we get the guests.
Because they want to talk to me and Nicole, and John's entertaining, and then you get to the soap part, and they're like, okay, this is why I'm here. I mean,
I think that was disparaging, John. I really do. I think that was a disparaging tone.
Yeah. I'm here for the entertainment.
Right, like you're some sort of cymbal monkey.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. One of my monkeys standing on a box.
Yeah, jeez, yeah.
Yeah.
Can you do a trick?
The reviews have been good. We've been ramping them up here. We did do a live one from the airport about a week or so ago now. But no, I'm excited about today's. I showed the soap earlier. It's very strong, so it's going to be a good review. I think this one's going to be. We've got a lot of potential with that. But back to the cigar side of things. So obviously it's been a challenging year in terms of like the normal, even now, just the normal travel. And I think as an industry, you're probably not going to be back to on the road every single day of the week like we all used to be. But really, what's been the biggest transition for you over the last year and a half, and what's been the most positive thing that's come out of this for you?
Well, I think me being able to be home more kind of showed me how much better at my job I am when I can do it. Like, you know what I mean? Like it's like I actually have time now to because before I was traveling like you, like 110 flights a year, 200 something hotels a year. It's international stuff too. Like it was a real grind. And I would get home from say I fly out on a Tuesday, get home on a Friday. Well, I fly out again the next Tuesday. So I've got Saturday, Sunday, Monday to catch up on a whole week's worth of shit that I have to do. And so it was like, now I really have time to sit here and think about like what we can be doing. So that was kind of a positive thing, but adjusting to not traveling was difficult because I've never really not traveled, since I've been in the cigar industry, and even a little bit before, like I was always traveling for work. And so being at home and trying to find shit to do has been difficult. And I ended up getting into the weeds with like, these really innocuous things like patio furniture, like researching for hours patio furniture on YouTube. I'm watching YouTube reviews of a fucking chair. It's like, what are we doing here, guys? And then like home audio and new furniture for the house and mattresses and all this stuff. So I ran out of things to be in the weeds on, and then it's like you sit down in your nice patio chair and turn on your new TV, and then you're like, all right, now what do I do? And so yeah, that was a challenge, like trying to figure out how to spend my downtime, because usually it's going out for dinner, going out for drinks, things like that. But being able to work during the day was good. And then I think that probably the most positive takeaway, and also the biggest challenge for us over the last year was, how do you keep the sales force engaged? I have, 9 different reps around the country and plus distributors in 33 other countries. And it's like, when you're not traveling with them and you're not working with them on a daily basis and communicating as much, it's how do you keep them engaged in solving the problems the way that they really kind of have to get solved, because COVID was not one of those situations where we can throw out a deal and say, what would really help you through this global pandemic? Buying more cigars from us. Like that's just, I think, like intellectually dishonest. Like I just think it's a silly way to go about it. So like we were trying to get the rep. So what I started doing was we did 2 Zoom calls a week with our whole sales team, where we focused not on, where your numbers at, like a normal sales meeting kind of thing. It was, what are you seeing out there? It was education, talking about customer selling, product stuff. So what gaps do we have? What issues have you experienced that we can tackle now that we have the time? And then, so we did this education series, and then we started inviting retailers on it, like good retailers that are strong contributors to the industry. And they would come on and we'd ask them questions and kind of get their feedback on what we could do different and what was going on. So we really took the downtime, and we had all this extra bandwidth available to us all at once. And we're like, what can we do to get better out of this? And then I think the other thing that we did that was I think really good was, given we had this downtime and the reps weren't traveling as much or at all really, for months and months, I kind of asked the reps, like, look, what are you good at that you like doing that you aren't doing for us? And they were like, what do you mean? And I was like, what do you like? And one guy was like, oh, I like photography. And I'm like, oh, well, why don't you do new product pictures for the website and start helping us with social? And the other guy was like, oh, I really like social media. And I was like, all right, well, then you run our social media now. Have at it. See how we can grow. And because I fucking don't like it. So it was like one of them, Heather, she said she always had an interest in copywriting. So I'm like, oh, when we do press releases and newsletters and stuff like that, why don't you do the copy for it? And she was like, oh, awesome. Like, and so we got the reps really, one of them was engaged on the legislative front, and they wanted to collaborate with PCA a little bit more. And he did like a Zoom info session with people in his territory and stuff like that. So it was really cool because we got to find out what our reps were passionate about that they weren't doing independently of the cigar business. And we got to use up some of that bandwidth that they had towards the end of furthering kind of the company goals. And getting really great work out of it too, because they were doing something they were interested in on top of their job. So I think we, turned chicken shit into chicken salad throughout the whole thing, and kind of move forward the right way. So it was a challenge for sure, but but I think the team handled it really well.
Well, it sounds like you guys really handled that really efficiently, and you're real productive with that time. It's a really interesting take, and we usually ask, how has the pandemic affected your company, your business? You know, what are the retailers, you know, saying to you? What's the feedback? Are they selling more? Are they selling less of your stuff? You know, what have you guys done? Has there been production, limitations and all that stuff? But it sounds to me like, you guys really use the time to kind of think outside the box a little bit, and find, like you were saying, those other strengths that maybe you guys weren't utilizing but are there. They're tools that you can use. Your reps are already there. It's like, well, what else can you do for us? Being creative. And I've seen a lot of companies, we've had on the show who've used this time. I mean, even look at what John's done, with, Hacking Gourmet and with LFD. I mean, with the gourmet smoke sessions. I mean, that's something that he didn't do before, and now there's, okay, well, we're gonna do an in-store event that's a cigar event, but it's also this other event too that really has nothing to do with cigars, but it pairs well together, that's another new thing that they have done to innovate too. So there's a lot of cool things that a lot of manufacturers have done, and it's interesting to see. I mean, you touched on social media a little bit. There's a lot of companies that really didn't have a strong social media presence or interaction before, and now you're seeing manufacturers really step up their game with social media, Facebook, Instagram. You see companies come up with YouTube channels. I know, like, Perdomo was one of those companies where they were like, we got to get our own YouTube channel, and they started just making content on YouTube, and the guys are Jose Blanco and Jeremiah, they started that Meet the Professor show, and so the Fuentes, they started a show, and then everyone kind of did something different, but it was all kind of similar, and it was these new innovations that were, okay, well, how do we think outside the box? We're not really doing in-store cigar events and shops and traveling around, but they're highly effective, and a lot of the feedback that I have heard is that all these things that everyone has kind of thought outside the box with to kind of change their game a little bit is that, especially when it came to like the virtual events, the digital stuff, they were seeing better results with that than they were with the in-store events, prior to the pandemic. And so now it's like, as people start to go somewhat back to their normal lives now, as everything starts to kind of return to somewhat of a pre-COVID world, you're seeing in-store events happening, but you're also seeing them keep that online virtualness and the social media and kind of working in tandem now with the in-person events. And I think that's a great innovation for the industry.
Yeah, I mean, events were stale, and the one thing that COVID did with the interaction thing, it created a new dynamic for the premium cigar industry. I mean, people were interacting in different ways. There was creativity, so it really changed changed how you're going to manage and how you do events going forwards. All of the stuff that we're doing it has a virtual broadcast with it, so that's always going to stay there. But if we all were to go back to what we were doing before, that would be stale because the expectation's so much higher now. So I think it's been a great thing for the consumer, and it's been really unique in this industry. To have that opportunity. I haven't seen anything like that in any other business where every night there's like a Zoom room and people are hanging out in the lounge. That's just not going on. So it's really fun to watch that, and it's really changed the dynamic that you're going to see on the road too. And I think you probably agree.
Yeah, for sure. And it's like classic consumer behavior, right? Like, where do you go to get your information about products? And if it's shifting to social media, from whatever, magazines or talking to your buddies in a lounge or something like that. Now the world gets so much smaller, and so many people get to hear about great products and new products, and they get to hear about it in a much deeper, more qualified sort of way than if you heard it secondhand, like, oh, I smoked this Kristoff the other day and it was really good. It's like, all right, well, how's that guy going to act on that? He doesn't even know what it was, Whereas if you're doing a podcast with me, or if you're doing a podcast with John about LFD or something like that, and John says, hey, I really love this Cameroon cabinet, and they're like, oh, okay, write down on their phone, Cameroon cabinet, and they go, next time they go to their retailer, they can grab it and try it because they heard somebody talk about it and explain it. So as more people come to social media, the stuff that you guys are doing is going to become much more important to the industry. And I think that the industry needed, like you said, events were stale, and the industry needed a kick towards the 21st century. So I think this represents a really good, positive move in that direction. And we'll get better too. We'll get better at it, all of us, and the content will continue to improve.
Not to really change the subject or change gears here, but I do want to hit our news segment sooner rather than later. Our news segment is brought to you by McAuliffe Cigars. McAuliffe Cigars, become an ambassador today. If you head to McAuliffeCigars.com, you can sign up to be an ambassador and get your tasting passport. Taste through the line and submit that passport pack back in, and you can win some cool stuff from McAuliffe just for being an ambassador. And you can get your coin, like all of us, and you can become an McAuliffe ambassador with your McAuliffe ambassador coin. Despite what John might tell you, they do come. They don't get lost in the mail. They're usually about 2 or 3 weeks out. Some people get them much longer, but what can I say? Shit happens.
It was entirely intentional at this point. I just determined it had to have been intentional to make you wait a month and a half.
Are you sure it wasn't the postal service?
No,
I mean, let's be real.
No.
I think it was.
No,
I think Andy
the
like this.
postage on it.
I think
you can see what
I did their show. And I applied to be in the group that my show was going to be on. And they were like, could you just please answer these questions and do all this stuff? And I'm like, the answer to the questions is I have to be in this fucking group. Okay? Like, I'm literally doing a podcast on this group tonight, so I'd really like to be in. That is the answer. And they were like, oh, okay, we'll let you in. I'm like, I don't want to do this Illuminati secret survey to try to get into this group. I'm doing this show, guys. It's pretty important that I can do it. So,
but yeah, I'm a coin carrying ambassador member. I'm very proud, and I do have my coin, and them making me wait for it made it even more special to me.
Absolutely,
yeah, it's right on your nightstand.
Good things come to those who wait. An interesting one rolled across my news feed today, and I said, oh well, we gotta bring this up. I like getting John's opinion on a lot of this stuff too, because I know John has a really good insight. North Carolina tax proposal would charge tobacco tax for online sales and introduce tax cap for cigars. So in North Carolina, there's some legislation that's going through the state right now that would potentially begin to charge sales tax for online cigars, online cigar sales. As we continue to see more tax attack, as I like to call it, on the cigar industry. John, what are your thoughts on that? Do you see this, the beginning of more broader cigar tax for online cigar sales?
Well, the unique thing with the North Carolina situation was they're lowering the tax rate, and essentially with a cap, so a 30-cent cap. So it's going to lower the price of cigars in the state, and then they're going to charge tax to the products coming in, so it'll even the playing field there. The only thing that I'm concerned about, which is what happened in Maryland, I believe, over the last few years, is Maryland did the same thing. They brought the tax down. They had this tax cap. They told people that that it was good for them, and they were going to start charging. They were going to try to start charging taxes or whatever. So essentially, they outlawed the shipping of cigars into the state. And then as soon as that was outlawed, the retailers were excited, and they raised the tax.
Right.
So the one thing that I'm concerned about there is, at least this way they're gonna charge the tax. They're not outlawing products being shipped into the state, so that'll be good. But I'm always wary of government and taxes. Period. When given the chance, there's they're always going to come after expendable income, and premium cigars and tobacco are a place where it's expendable income. So I'm always wary of that. But it seems like a good situation, and it could be a positive one for them, and if it makes it the playing field more even, then I think it's a good situation for the state. But I just would advise to be careful, and I just worry that once they do that, then they'll start raising the taxes to an oppressive level in the future, and then there's no way around it other than like smuggling cigars in across state lines.
Yeah, the online cigar sales thing has been a topic of conversation the last couple of years. Is it endangered? Will it go away? Now we're seeing the introduction of online tax for online sales. And you're right. It's like, okay, it looks okay right now, but you know, they get it in the door with a low tax rate. Now they got it. Now it's like, well, that's already here now. Oh, by the way, 4 years later, oh, by the way, we're going to raise it up, 30% now. And then it becomes, you can't get around it in state, in store, in person. You go try to order online, and everything that comes in, is being taxed. And you're right. It comes down to what you got to smuggle your shit in. It's that I would agree. That's the same concern I have, and I see that being a threat. And maybe that doesn't happen in North Carolina, but I see some states where that definitely will be a reality. And it's unfortunate, and it sucks because it's just a bunch of BS. And once again, it's the attack on the cigar industry. It's not only is it
attack.
Yeah, it's a tax attack, but it's also it doesn't just hurt the consumers though. I mean, it definitely does, and it's a huge deal. But it hurts the manufacturers too, because then you start to lose a customer base. It hits the retailers, and then the retailers stop ordering from the manufacturers, and then the manufacturers are making less. It has a ripple effect, and and then it gets industry wide, and it's no good for anybody. And once again, it's the ignorance. It's the ignorance of a lot of people who try to throw their blanket of, I don't know everything about this, but I'm going to tell you what to do about it anyway. And it is what it is, I guess. But that's my take on it.
On that note.
Yeah, on that note, Nicole, what do you got for us?
Yeah, so we have some audience questions for Jarrid, so we're going to switch over to that. So we have a question from Jeff Batchelor, who says he doesn't know much about the brand, but has smoked a handful of them. How did Kristoff come to be?
So we've been around for like 15 years. And originally Glenn Case, who's the owner of Kristoff, and his wife, Terry, and her father, Vince Duran, were cigar brokers in Chicagoland market. And this was during the cigar boom. And for anyone that's watching that doesn't know about the cigar boom, it was, late 90s, early 2000s. And it was like when you used to be able to walk into a cigar store as a broker, and it wouldn't be like it is now, where John and I walk into a store and, we're positioning the product and trying to explain. My SWAT team of landscapers has just showed up. That's why I relocated. I figured I should at least explain that. So if you hear machines in the background, that's what it is. So, so you walk into a store, and instead of being like, this is what we have, we think it would do well, it does well at other shops in the area, blah, blah, blah. You would walk in and they'd be like, what can you sell us? And you would be like, I have this, I have this, I have this, and you'd sell it. And so people were going nuts. Cigars were going nuts. It was, you could walk into a store and buy money makers for the longest time, but you couldn't buy half of the brands that are on the market now. And so as these brands started to come up, they needed people to sell them, and so we sold them. So Glenn and Terry and Vince sold them in that Chicagoland market. And then eventually what would happen is you would, as a broker, you would build a brand until the brand was big enough in that territory to where they could hire somebody as an in-house sales rep that just works for them. So then they would be like, hey, Glenn, Terry, you did a great job building this brand. Now you're fired. And you'd be like, oh, shit. And it just kept happening kind of like that. And eventually Glenn got sick of it, and he was like, I don't know why I keep doing this for other people. Why don't we do it for ourselves? And so he met with Rolando Villamil, who runs the factory for us to this day. And Villamil wanted him to sell their cigar that his factory was making in the United States. And Glenn was like, I don't want to do that. I want to make my own. And Villamil was like, okay, let's do it. So Glenn flew to the Dominican Republic. And the first thing we came out with was a cigar called the Vengeance. We actually didn't make it at that factory. We made it at the Rocky Patel factory. And we couldn't give it away. It was a good cigar, but it got like whatever, an 86 in Cigar Aficionado, which is like 3 middle fingers from them, and then it just never took off, right? And so we came out with another cigar which had a sweet tip called Britannia, which was named after Glenn's daughter, and that cigar didn't do particularly well either. And et cetera, et cetera. So we were kind of spinning our wheels. And then Glenn's son's name is Christopher. And so he came up with a cigar called the Kristoff. And it was our original Criollo. It was with the pigtail and the uncut foot, a rough cut box, loose tobacco in the box. And then all of a sudden that went nuts. And then we came out with the Kristoff Maduro and then Lajero Criollo, Lajero Maduro, blah, blah, blah. And so it kind of extended from there. And then I got hired maybe like almost 10 years ago. And Glenn and I met at a cigar event at the Humidor in East Greenwich, Rhode Island, which that location isn't there anymore, but the shop is still there, and they've been around for like 60 years, Jana and Donna and her family. And we met at a cigar event, and Glenn was doing a Kristoff event, and so we went. So my dad invited me, told me about the event. We went together, and there were like 100 and something guys at this event, and it just so happened I was at the lounge the night before, and there was a magazine, like a Cigar Journal or something, and it had a whole article on Kristoff. So I read the article to figure out what was going on. I show up to the event, Glenn gets up and he starts doing cigar trivia. And he's like, I'll give you a cigar for every question that you get right. And out of 100 and something guys there, I'm the only one who fucking studied for this event. And so for this quiz that he was doing, so I ended up getting like 8 of the 10 questions right? So I fleeced him for like half a box of cigars because I read this article the night before. And he comes up to me and he's like, oh, well, what do you do? And I was like, oh, I work for Target. And he was thinking I was like, like collecting carriages at Target or something like that. And he just discovered like the Will Hunting of cigars or something. So he was like, would you ever want a job? And I'm like, yeah, I want a job. And he's like, well, make a resume. Like I was an executive for Target. And he was like, well, make a resume. So I sent him my resume and he goes, I can't afford you right now. And I'm like, no, you cannot. And he's like, well, maybe in a couple of years. And I figured, whatever, that's very nice of you to say, right? Like, I'll never hear from you again. And so later on in the evening of that event, he had this box press cigar, and I knew Kristoff had made a box press cigar because I just read an article about all their cigars. And so he was thanking everybody for coming to the event, coming table to table, and he took the band off, threw it in the ashtray, and thanked us for coming to the event, and he walked away. Well, later in the evening, he gets up and he goes, I'll give anybody 5 cigars if they know the name of my new line. And I was like, oh, the label's in my ashtray, right? So I grabbed the label out of the ashtray, I read it, it says Galerones, whatever. And I raised my hand and said, I lit the label on fire and destroyed the evidence. And then I was like, it's the Galerones series. And he was like, how did you know that? And I'm like, God, just, savvy to the industry, right? And he was like, I'm the only one in this room that knows this. There's no way. I'm like, I'm telling you, I got my ear to the ground, right? So anyway, so I write my name and my email on the back of a business card, give it to him. He tells me all that stuff about the job and everything. And he ended up calling me every month and a half, 2 months, just to kind of keep in touch for almost like 2 years from the time that we met. And one day he called me and he goes, I think I can finally pay you. I think I can pay you. And I'm like, well, to do what? And he's like, I don't know. He's like, but we're going to work together. And so I had a successful corporate job. I was an executive for Target in that New England region. And then I went to Bed Bath & Beyond for a concept called Christmas tree shops that they have, and had a bunch of stores for them. And so I had like an up-and-coming kind of career. And the day he offered me the job, Glenn did, I had gotten promoted and went to the headquarters for Bed Bath & Beyond at Patriot Place in Foxborough. And so I had literally gotten promoted the day he offered me the job. And so now I'm moving all my stuff into a new office in the top level of that store and all this stuff. And I was like, I never would be able to look at myself if I didn't try it, at least. So I quit. I quit my job, and I started as Kristoff's first sales rep in New England. And then my market paid for another one, which paid for another one, which paid for another one. Shut up, dogs. And they then we were to scale, and he asked me if I wanted to. I hired and trained everybody that worked for us. And then he asked me if I wanted to be national sales manager, and I said yeah. And then he wanted me to be VP of sales and do some more international key account stuff? I said, yeah. And then I just, a couple of months ago got promoted to executive vice president. So that's kind of the story of the whole thing, I guess.
That's a cool story.
That is a good story. I like that.
That's a good story.
Yeah, how I got here and how he got here.
Well, I mean, it's one of those stories where you already had a really nice, successful career. You're already on a path to, keep climbing that corporate ladder, and you're already kind of within that big box store retailer, industry, and then you start over again in a sense. You go to the cigar industry, and you go to a new place, and you start from scratch again. You become a sales rep, you work your way back up, and now you're VP of sales. I mean, that's fantastic.
Man, that SWAT team is really getting.
Yeah, that SWAT team is really.
I'll mute. Let me mute while you guys are talking.
You're fine. Why don't? On that note, you know what? I think this is a good segue. So, John, are you ready for a soap review?
Yeah, let's do it. I can take the computer in with me here. Let's go to the restroom. Let's do this. Oh, back is very stiff today.
So I know Jarrid's muted, but in the meantime, while John travels, so Jarrid, this is your treat. You get to be part of a live soap review right here on the show. It's a little bit more intimate than the airport ones that John is normally entangled in on social media.
So
we need an outside basin.
So here we go. Today on the soap review, we've got we're going with Dr. Squatch here. We got the Duke Cannon soaps coming up in the next few weeks here. That towards the end of June we'll be doing the Duke Cannon soaps. So I know we've been talking about those, but still working through Dr. Squatch, and this is a limited edition product that it just came out with. It's all kind of like space themed. So this is the Dr. Squatch Mars Bar.
Ooh.
So let me read a little bit here. This is the Galaxy edition. Men's natural soap, volcanic ash, and pumice, not to be confused with hummus. Pumice. And this is a medium grit. So some of the ones we've been using recently have been no grit, essentially. But the pine tar was the heavy grit, the large grit, I would say. So this is medium grit, 5-ounce bar. It's energetic, explosive, and rugged, just like a Squatch man should be. So I guess I'm a Squatch man. And then here we go. It says on the side, special packaging, smell like cosmic spice. I'm going to tell you, straight up, and to be very honest here, this is the strongest Squatch soap I've smelled since the pine tar. It does have a lot of spice to it. It's strong. It's very, very strong. So strong on the taste, on the smell at the front here. You can tell it kind of looks like it's from Mars. We've got some nice gradient in here, some redness, some black. I'm looking forward to this soap. I've had this now for about 3 weeks. I've not used it yet, and I'm excited. So here we go. Let's get some nice warm water going here. Not too warm. I do have a regular cloth off the side here, so I like to go medium in terms of the temperature. So we got some nice warm water going on here. As always, I like to wet the soap a little bit too. Helps with lather. This here, you can scrub in a little bit to get to the grit, but it does have some grit to it. So that is nice. My watch is congratulating me right now on washing my hands. Strangely, the scent on the soap is stronger than the scent of the bar itself is stronger than the scent that I'm getting from the actual suds here. I'd say the scent on the soap itself is probably a 10 in terms of strength, 9/10 on strength, and then in the suds it's about a 4. So a lot of scent loss, which I think is nice. I don't really like to wash my hands and then have them smell exactly like what I use. Like I don't like aloe vera and hand sanitizers for that reason. But here we go. Nice lather, real classic Squatch lather. This one's a little bit creamier. I really like this so far. Let's see how it washes off. Water's a little hot. There you go. Ooh, real hot water.
John, I know I'm not allowed to talk during the soap review, but I have a question.
Yeah, you need to stop talking right now.
All right, I'll wait.
What's the question?
I'm just trying to think back. Have you ever had now you're a big user of the term lights out when you find something that's just amazing. Have you found a soap yet that is, as John Carney would say, lights out?
My favorite so far has been the pine tar.
But would you call it lights out?
I don't know. That's where I'm not reviewing the pine tar soap right now. This is a tough one. This is obviously essential oils in this, not a lot of the glycerin. It's not real slimy. I'm not getting a lot of scent left over after. I kind of like the color that the soap is taken on. The suds itself kind of have a redness to it, which is kind of cool. I really like the design on this. Man, it's a pretty good soap. I've got my hand dryer. Let me use my hand dryer for a second here.
He has a hand dryer.
That's interesting. I didn't. Wow, a residential hand dryer. Of course, John would have that in his house. Look at that.
I'm gonna say, what did I give the pine tar? I think was a 7.9. That's been my favorite soap. I'm gonna go with the Mars bar. This is a 7.89. 7.89 on the Mars bar.
Wow.
If this was a heavier grit, this would be in the 8s. I like the scent of it. It's very strong, but then as soon as you apply it to the body, the scent diminishes, and as soon as you apply water, the scent's pretty much gone in your hands. So you have a really clean experience from beginning to end. I think that's really how it should be. So yeah, 7.89 on the Dr. Squatch Mars bar. Highly recommend it. Limited edition. Excellent soap. 7.89. It's our second highest rated soap so far. So big fan of the Mars bar. I'm going to use this tonight in the shower and get the full body experience.
So, John, can I just touch on something? So, I know you didn't answer my question, and that's fine. But you've been doing the soap reviews for a while now. Do you think that maybe not like next week, but maybe sometime this year, I'd like to maybe see this. Do you think maybe you do a re-review of the pine tar and just kind of see how, get a fresh take on it?
I think that's a good idea, but I just don't think the breadth of the work is there yet. I think there's a lot of soaps that haven't got a fair shake. So going back and revisiting something when there's plenty of soaps that we need to be visiting before then is something I don't want to get into. And here's the thing: I'll revisit the pine tar when there's something I think that's better than it.
Okay.
So
that's
when we
fair.
get something that I'm considering that's better, then I'll go back and revisit the pine tar and establish that. But I mean, the pine tar set the bar for me from the scent, the grit. As I said, if this was a higher grit, this would be an 8.4, 8.5 soap.
Now, would you be open to reviewing other hygiene products besides soap? Just out of curiosity.
Interesting question.
Oh, absolutely, 100%.
Ooh.
I mean, personal hygiene has never been more important than now. And in the premium cigar industry, premium hygiene needs to be at the forefront of our industry as we take things and put them in our mouths, out of our mouths, as we universally use each other's cutters. I don't, but people in the stores do. I think hygiene has never been more important, and I'm here to review what I need to review.
The man of the people, John Carney.
Yeah.
He is. He really is.
This is a damn good soap. I'm gonna be honest. This is a damn good soap. If it just had a higher grit, it would be in the 8s. The smell in it is excellent, and I just love how it didn't linger. It's everything I want from a soap minus the grit that I get from the pine tar.
For viewers listening, super quick, if you have any ideas for other hygiene products that John Carney should review, let us know in the comments.
And if anybody has a soap,
Probably not hair product.
yeah, that would be a waste of time.
Beard product.
Yeah,
Soap, beard products.
Yep.
How you don't have
Toothpaste?
a soap sponsor is beyond me, John.
I know.
It honestly, it does actually blow my mind, and I'm not necessarily trying to get squatched. I would love them, but the pollen, I'm telling you. But I'm kind of surprised now. It's been over a year, and we haven't been approached by anybody about the soaps. So I don't know.
Who's
if anyone
doing
in the
this?
cigar
Who's doing this kind of high quality soap content?
Well, I think the reason why is,
Jarrid,
one of the
that's a good
questions our
point.
friend Jeff Batchelor said here, he's like, let's see some spreadsheets with all the soaps done so far. Is this really no follow-up other than the live video that we have of it? So I really do need to establish something on the Smokin Tabacco website. We talked about that where I have
An
the rating.
archive.
and
Yeah.
pictures and things. So I really do need to get working on that. But I have my hands full doing a lot of other things. So the website with the soap part of it will be somewhere down the list.
Matt also went to grab a product that I think we want you to review, and I think our audience is going to want that as well. Just so you know.
Okay. I'm a little uncomfortable.
You should be.
How
Yep.
you got to make a soap Instagram for
Yes.
these to chronicle it live. You have to soap whisperer
With the
or
rating.
something like that. Yeah,
Under
you
each
have
photo.
to do it.
Yeah. Between the graphic design work I do in making movies and cooking dinners and things, as I said, I love soap, and I wish I could do more with it. And I think if I could, it would be something that we could take to another level. It's just honestly for the amount of time I have to devote to the soap review is really just in the confines of the show. So I appreciate all of that, but for the time being, the reviews
Good
will
feedback.
be just here
It's
live,
good.
and
It's good
and it's
feedback.
very perfect. You could very much, if people would like to, they can go back and watch the shows, the Smokin Tabacco shows, and check out those reviews. They can fast forward.
I think that must be the first time that sentence has ever been said. I love the soap and I love what we're doing with it. I just wish we could take it to the next level.
There's another.
Nobody's ever said that before. I don't think all of human history.
There's another hygiene product that does get used in this house, and Nicole enjoys it as well. It's kind of a couples thing when you think about it.
Well, I mean, it helps.
But that is this is a really interesting take. I don't know how well we could actually do this on the show, but it's just for shits and giggles and for ideas, and I'm sure everyone will love this. This is the crop preserver ball deodorant from Manscaped, which you get out of the shower, everything's clean, you get it all in there, and it keeps it fresh.
I think you
Especially
have to make a paywall dedicated site. That would be the soap only fans, I believe.
The Smokin Tabacco OnlyFans website.
That's where that's when our Smokin Tabacco After Dark series will come back.
I coincidentally have that product. I actually have another product of theirs as well, so I actually do have that. I have used it. It's overrated. I'd give it it's probably in the fours.
How many? Four balls.
Yeah.
Four balls.
It's entirely unfair there. But yeah, so it's not that great. Yeah,
There are better products for that, I think.
It's a good idea.
What about Gold Bond? Just regular?
Nah, that's a grand. That's a
I mean, that's not really.
style.
None of this stuff's like hygiene products. Like I look at hygiene products for me, or things that actually cleanse me and clean me.
Fair.
Hand sanitizer reviews.
Yeah,
like I don't
people,
think powder.
People need that.
Powder, I guess, is hygiene, but not the way I think like of the raw nature of hygiene is cleanliness.
Dude, I would love to see John do is a toothpaste review.
With
Just-
that charcoal
Just
one?
him in there,
With the black
scrubbing
powder?
away, getting all in there and trying to talk through that too. I think that would be hilarious.
I've actually been working on charcoal toothpaste recently, and I've actually come to. There's been some natural ones. I had the Burt's Bees was very nice, but I've settled on my favorite charcoal toothpaste right now. Is a big company, but it's the Crest. The Crest charcoal is
Really?
excellent. Very, very good.
The hand sanitizer, though, I think the people need because everybody's making their own hand sanitizer. It's like the Wild West in the world of hand sanitizers right now.
Oh, it is.
And they feel gross. Okay, if you're a restaurant and you want to make your own hand sanitizer, it feels bad. Okay, I don't like the texture. There's a texture that hand sanitizer is supposed to be, and it's what Purell feels like, and that's what you need to do. I don't like these new hand sanitizers in every restaurant I'm expected to use. I don't know. Maybe it's just me.
Like a lot of like
I don't like the feeling.
a lot of
There's
liquor.
some awful hand sanitizers.
All the liquor.
Viscosity. The
all the-
viscosity is wrong.
All the liquor companies were coming out with them last year during the pandemic. So like, you saw like who did one? Like I think Buffalo Trace made one.
Everyone.
I think Jack Daniels made one. And like, oh well, we're gonna make a sanitizer now, and I'm like, okay.
It feels bad. It feels
Yeah.
bad, guys. It was great service they were providing to their customers and to everybody in the world that needed it when there was a shortage. Hand sanitizer kind of just supposed to feel one way. I don't like the viscosity on some of these newfangled ones. I'm sorry. It's
Well,
not
it's the same thing I'd say with like the soaps, Jarrid. It's like I don't want it to linger after. And some of those hand sanitizers, it's like there's a layer on your hands, and it's just
Sometimes my
fun.
hands feel more dirty than they did before, and I'm just like,
Or wet.
now I just would rather just go wash my hands and be done with it. You know, it's like,
Yeah.
yeah,
Nothing replaces hand washing.
No.
Nothing.
Nothing replaces a nice hot shower either. You get out, you feel all clean.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's gold right there. Anyway. How did we get here? John, this is your fault as usual.
I think we need to segue to something more manly.
I think we do. I think we're going to hit our sports segment brought to you by Nova Cigars. Nova Cigar, hashtag Make Nova Big. If you head over to novacigars.com, you can use our discount code SMKTAB15 to save 15% off your order on novacigar.com. So, this is going to be a fun one. Jarrid, New England guy. I think I already know which way this is going to go. Let's see. Where do we start? I know there's a little bit of basketball drama that John will probably want to touch upon, but I want to hit hockey first. Jarrid, do you follow hockey at all?
I do, yeah.
Are you a Bruins guy?
Oh, yeah.
All right. So, I'm gonna be honest with you. I didn't like the way that Bruins game ended. It was like there was a good comeback. They were down 3-1. Marchand pops in the tying goal there, and then we go to overtime, and on a breakaway, we lose that game in overtime. And I was not happy about that. We had so
that second period was probably the worst period of hockey ever.
Yeah.
For the Bruins, at least. I mean, there were a lot of opportunities in overtime that could have ended it, but the Islanders had a lot of opportunities to never even get it to overtime in the first place in the third period. So it was tough, but I think this is a well-fought series, and it's great hockey. So
it is good hockey. Yeah,
I'm looking forward to it. The only thing I'm bummed about is that the Canadians beat the Leafs, because I playing the Leafs not to talk too soon, but playing the Leafs in that divisional round is like, I mean, there's absolutely nothing better. There's not in the conference round. There's nothing better. We always beat the Maple Leafs in a catastrophic fashion for them. It's like a walk. So the fact that they lost is bumming me out. But and also, I got buddies in Toronto that I like to make fun of. So
also, I don't want to see the Habs win at all. I mean, I don't like the Habs.
I don't want to see the Habs win anything.
Yeah,
I don't want to see the Habs win anything. So,
but the streak continues for Toronto.
Isn't there a scenario where it could be Bruins Habs in the Stanley Cup final right now?
Well, no.
I don't know.
No, I don't.
I was having a discussion with somebody today.
No.
I think there might be a way that they would play each other in the finals.
No, I don't think it.
I don't think it's possible.
It would be the Eastern Conference Finals, and then they would.
Yeah, I know, but you got to remember they had realignments of these conferences this last year, so they're all playing in different conferences. So I'm going to pull this up. I think I was having a discussion with someone today, and yes. So the Habs are playing the Winnipeg Jets right now, okay, in the Western Conference, and you have the Avalanche playing the Golden Knights. So that's on the left, and on the right-hand side, let me pull this up so you guys see this. There's actually, if the Bruins, there's a concept.
I just found the article.
Could actually be in the Stanley Cup playoffs against each other, which would be incredible.
That would be interesting.
They not had this realignment just for the year. It would have been really interesting because you had all these different teams playing different people. We could have a Habs Bruins final.
Yeah, if the Canadians win out and the Bruins win out, then yeah, that's weird. I'm reading the article right now on CBS Boston. There is a scenario where that could happen. That's wild.
Yeah, I guess he's right. Yeah. That would be interesting. And you know what?
I forgot about the realignment.
Yeah, that would be an interesting Stanley Cup final. I just hope that if it does get to that point, we definitely can't lose to the Habs in the Stanley Cup final. I mean, that would just be horrible.
It would be terrible.
Plus,
I'd rather have lose before, but
not anything against our friends north of the border, but I mean, the Cup hasn't been north of the border in what is it, 26 years now?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the Canadians no Canadian team has held that cup since, what is it, like 93 or like maybe like 95 or something like that. It's been a long time. Only American teams have had it in that time. So Yeah, I'd hate the Bruins to be the ones to hand it back to Canada. That would suck. So there would be a lot of pressure on that one. But there is a Jeff Dillingham. Carney, you won't have to worry about that. Islanders in 5. Yeah, I don't know about that.
He's rooting hard.
Once again, boys, once again, us Boston people are being threatened by the obnoxious New Yorkers. You know, we see it with the Yankees.
It's just pissing into the wind at this point. They're just old men shouting at the sky. It doesn't matter.
They're like the old guy from The Simpsons yelling at the cloud. You know,
Yeah.
it's New York sports teams haven't been great in a long time. I mean, look at the Yankees. What used to be? You know, they got a World Series title in '09. And
Nah, that's what they live on, though. It's just, it's just old gas in the tank.
Ooh.
yeah,
Ooh, so this week
Just
we
saying.
found out, I don't really follow sports, but I found out a water bottle is an assault weapon.
I was segueing into that
Oh,
whole
sorry.
situation.
Yeah,
Ruined it.
Here's the thing. I don't condone the throwing of things at human beings that are performing a sporting event. So I'm not trying to. I'm not ever going to defend that. I think it's crazy. I think some of it's funny sometimes. Like I thought when Philadelphia was throwing,
Popcorn.
decades ago was popcorn and things, but Philadelphia was throwing snowballs at Santa Claus and things like that. It's always funny, but hey, Kyrie Irving, in my opinion, didn't really do anything to not antagonize something to happen. He stomped on the logo in the middle of the court like a jerk.
He's so
I don't think he's a
soft.
bad.
Oh,
Yeah, I don't think he's a bad human
He's
being, but there's a
just-
way to handle things, and there's also a way for that other person to handle things. But nothing that person, nothing that he did deserve to have a water bottle thrown at him. I mean, that's a little bit ridiculous, but it was a little bit shocking. I think they made a point out of this person. It made an example of him because it's like, stop or we're going to prosecute you. You can't be throwing a water bottle, and the kid that threw it's an idiot. He's not a representation of all of Boston. The people that say things that are rude, racist, or whatever it is, those aren't a representations of us as society, in my opinion. I think the majority of the society, there was 17,000 people at the game, only one person threw a water bottle. So there were 16,999 people who didn't throw a water bottle. So we can't say that person's a representation of Boston. The guy was just an asshole. But, Kyrie's antagonizing. He was doing things to prove a point, and Boston never treated him poorly. He decided to leave.
Yeah. I just think there's such like a disconnect between somebody that, makes all these public statements, comes out, stomps on the logo, which is also super soft for people to be like, oh, he stomped on the logo, like to get triggered by that is wild. But like for him to do that, and then for him to come out and say I was hit by an assault water bottle is just so soft. It's the dude's applesauce. He just is. He was when he was here. He is now. It's just whatever. He shouldn't have gotten hit. These guys have an expectation of their safety and everything like that. And when they come into the arena, and it's just common sense. But I mean, he's just soft.
And for the record, he was not actually hit with the water bottle. It did not hit him, so there was no injury with that. So they're just making an example. Again, if you're going to go to a sporting event, don't throw things. Just use your head. And if you're not going to be able to go to that sporting event anymore. Maybe that person doesn't care. He got to be famous and have some fun. Nobody was hurt, but don't throw things at sporting events. Grow up.
Well, they're making an example of him. I think they're going to kick him out of college and some other stuff.
Yeah, hey, fine. And I just love how all of a sudden it was like that was a solidifying of the culture of Boston. Only in Boston. I've seen that stuff happen in every city, from every creed, race, everything. I mean, I watch stupid people do stupid things. So let's make this what it is. That guy's stupid. He did something stupid. That's not a representation of anything except stupid people. It's really that simple.
Yeah, exactly. I think it was well said. I agree with what Jarrid said. I think Kyrie is soft. I think that in the state of the NBA, it's one of the reasons why it becomes harder and harder for me to follow the NBA. every year. It's just the players, and he's not the only one. There's a lot of players out there who just they don't just play the fucking game. That's my problem. It's like play the game, will ya? It's all this off-court drama, and Kyrie's known for it. LeBron's had his share with it too. I'm not a LeBron guy at all. I know John will probably partially disagree with me there, but it's like it's become too obnoxious. I mean, one thing I do love about hockey is those guys, they show up, they play hard, they play with broken ankles and broken arms, and they go out there and then they get off the ice and they talk about the game that they played, and that's that.
They shut up and play hockey.
Yeah,
Shut up and
they
play
just
hockey.
shut up and play
And
hockey.
I'm not trying to shut people's, shut off people's, these celebrities have a place to stand, and get their voices heard. But, I've always said this with LeBron James. LeBron James doesn't need to do that during the basketball game.
No.
Like if LeBron James wants to talk about something socially, and an opinion or a view on something, he has that platform, and he doesn't need to do it during the basketball game. Like we don't have to have that discussion during the game or after, like immediately after. Let's talk about the game and then use your celebrity to work towards whatever agenda you have or whatever you feel is right. But to have it be during the games is just too much. And you're 100% right. Hockey's fantastic.
And that's one of the things that
watch the game and it's over. You enjoy it. It's an escape from reality and fantastic.
And that's one of the things that's made Bill Belichick so great. As a coach. He's one of those people. He goes into a press conference. They ask him something other than football, and he gives you the attitude back. And for us, it's funny, but at the same time, it's his way of being like, I don't play that game. Ask me questions about football, and that's that. Don't ask me about, hey, what do you think about Tom Brady down in Tampa Bay? I don't care. I'm here to talk about my team and what we're doing next week. That's the way it should be. Even Jordan, when Jordan would get interviewed after games, he wanted to talk about the game, and that was it. He didn't want people asking about his personal life. He didn't want, what's your opinion on this and that? He didn't play that way. There's been a lot of comparisons to Jordan and Kobe to the current generation of NBA players, and it's a very, very stark contrast of.
Those guys used to lie about having injuries so that they could play.
Yeah.
Right.
LeBron is lying about injuries that he doesn't actually have, so he can't play.
Exactly.
I mean, that's just the difference in mentality, between these generations. So, I don't know. LeBron James does everything he can to make people not like him, in spite of the fact that he's like eminently a likable guy. Like he's very good at the sport. He doesn't do grimy, shitty stuff off the court. He does a lot for his community. Empirically, he's a pretty good guy. It's him as a person that bothers people, and that's much more difficult to break from. It's just his personality is so bad that it just
I feel like with
bothers people.
With LeBron, he's trying too hard to be, better than Jordan. And it's like, dude, just go out there and just prepare, play, train the best, and play basketball. And if you work hard enough, maybe you'll be better than Jordan. But don't go out there with the attitude like, well, I'm trying to be better than Jordan. It's like, well,
just be about it. Just be about it. Like,
don't live by a narrative. That's been my stance on that situation. But other than that, go ahead, John.
Yeah, so I was going to say, Jarrid, moving on from sports here as we slowly get to the end, what's next on the horizon for Kristoff? What's up this summer? What's the next 6 months look like for you and Kristoff? I know you mentioned your new position. I didn't see that on any press releases or social media stories on that, so I don't know if it's official. But
it is.
But,
yeah.
Will you guys be going to PCA?
Oh yeah, of course.
Okay.
Of course we'll be there. Yeah.
So what's the next 6 months look like?
So for us, and you guys are going through the same thing. A lot of manufacturers, I'm sure you've talked to are going through the same thing. The quarantine situation in the Dominican Republic has really affected our ability to do business. Plus, it's not like other countries where they put in a quarantine with capacity restrictions. But in the Dominican Republic, they also put in a curfew. So you can't go to shift work. You can't do stuff to kind of mitigate the damage that has. So As that has set us back in terms of our ability to maintain our production schedule correctly. So, but we've been doing a good job navigating it. You know, like your beloved Lanceros, Matt. If I see those on a shipping manifest, I'll send them back in the cargo container back to the port in Dominican Republic. I want to see Robusto Toro 6x60, the stuff that people are really consuming, independently of the inventory pars we have set and stuff. So we've done what we can to mitigate that production drop off. Another thing that we did was we set our ratio for brick and mortar retailers. So only 9% of our back orders can be from brick and mortar retailers. 91% of our back orders end up being for key accounts, catalogs, things like that. So that's planned volume. They'll continue to do business without those inventory turns. But you know, some brick and mortar retailers, if it's a SKU that really moves for them, they really rely on those, and we miss it and they miss it. So we've tried to do that to protect the brick and mortar retailers as well. So in that kind of context, John, to your point, the next 6 months, I just don't think it's timely for us to release a new product. You know what I mean? Like, if I can't send you the product you've already ordered and you've already asked for, why would I tell you, oh, by the way, I've got 5 new SKUs at the trade show that I'm doing 5 line extensions or something like that, or even 1? Why would I dedicate production resources to making something new if I could better use those resources to fill orders the customers have already placed? So I'm not gonna do anything. We're not gonna do a new release at the show. We did the TAA box press this year as the TAA exclusive that we did, which has been doing really well. But I'm going to use the bandwidth that we have in our production schedule, which there is none, by the way, but what we would have otherwise allocated to a new product. We're going to use it to catch up and continue to keep this momentum moving. We've had a phenomenal year. Our reps are all doing well. Everybody's well placed. Everybody's happy. So I'm really happy with the way things are going. We're going to try to maintain that through the next 6 months. Plus, with PCA coming up, and I'm sure you feel the same way, John. It's important. This is the trade association's only source of revenue, you know, and so I think it's important that everybody kind of steps up to the plate and does what they can do. And so we've stepped up with, we've done some e-blast newsletters, we've done legislative sessions with them, we've done banner ads, all the stuff. Plus, we're maintaining the size of our booth this year. So we're trying to step up a little bit to kind of fill the gap that was left when some of the bigger companies ended up stepping away. So we're trying to do our part, and we're optimistic about the trade show. And it's, you know, what a lot of people don't understand is, you know, this FDA stuff kind of goes away. We win a legislative victory, but it's not going to, if anybody thinks it's going to get better on the legislative front, they're outside their minds. It's going to continue to escalate. They're going to continue pressing, and it's not going to get better. So we need the industry support behind us as strongly as ever. And this is the time they have to rebuild those war chests. You know, spending $3 million or more on a lawsuit over the course of the last few years, that takes its toll. So this is the PCA's opportunity to rebuild those war chests and start gearing up for the next fight. So I think it's our prerogative to be, in the same way that they've got to represent the brick and mortar retailers, we've got to do our best to step up for them since they're representing us too. So yeah, so next 6 months, no new product, try to catch up, do the right thing by our customers, and hopefully get out on the other side of this and we can do some cool stuff. We've got plenty of time to smoke samples, so hopefully we can do some cool stuff for next year.
I think that's incredibly well said.
Well, thank you, Matt.
I like how you put it into those words of, like, you know, why would you come out with something new when you can't even supply what you already have? You know, and I know in a serious note, you know, sometimes I use it as a joke with John, but on a serious note, you know, I know John's faced with the same issue, you know, with his company. It's something that, you know, I know that he works through with, you know, a lot of back orders. You know, a lot of people in the industry, you know, they know, you know, John has issues with back orders and, you know, trying to supply product. And
why they do you like this, John? Why do you? What happened?
I mean, I
Nothing but
deal
ridicule
with
for
it
the-
all
for the
day.
soap.
I deal with it on the show.
In the back.
On your leisure time, people are reminding you you're back
Switch the video
ordered.
feed.
It's
Yeah, it's a 24-hour beatdown. 24-hour beatdown, man. There's just no escaping.
I'm gonna text you before I go to bed tonight, asking about your back orders.
Yeah, no, I mean, John, I said that, on a serious note, like not, it's a reality
I know. I'm not messing with you.
but it is something that we've seen happen, and I've talked to John about it, and it's one of the things that we do love having John on the show for is it's having someone who's in his position with us to give that firsthand experience of well, this is what I deal with, and this is how we overcome those issues, and this is how we work with retailers and all of that stuff to meet demands and work with delays and stuff like that. And so it's always interesting to have someone else such as yourself or anyone else from any other manufacturer come on and have that conversation. And a lot of people are in that boat right now, and we saw last year a little bit of a at least with the retailers in our area. I've had some conversations with people saying like we've done the best business we've done in like 30 years. So there was a decline in production because of the pandemic, but on the flip side, a lot more buying was happening on the consumer level. So there's more demand, less production. It just makes it even tougher, and it's tough to work through. So my point being, I've had those conversations with John, and it's not easy, but that's part of what makes your job so special is you guys have to find a way to strategize with that. So,
well, my favorite quote. Here's the thing: you don't get back orders unless you're selling the things you have.
Exactly.
So it's nobody's in a back order situation or a situation of product because they're not making product. The demand's just exponentially higher than what the production schedules are allowing. And then as it increases, the demand's still exponentially higher. So these, you don't get a back order on something unless one, you're going out of business, you don't have products, and you can't make it. And in this case, in the cigar industry, it's thriving right now. And these are coming because the demand's high. And, I've congratulated and thanked the consumer. Thank you. You've outsmoked the ability of the cigar industry to keep up with your favorite sizes and shapes and blends. So I say congratulations to you guys and thank you so much. But it really has been driven by the consumers.
And John, you make a good point. I mean, when you look at it, a certain way, the fact that even in your position, you guys, obviously there's a strong demand for your product, and people are asking you for certain SKUs and stuff. You're like, I don't have it yet, whatever. But people want it. People are smoking. People are buying it. You'd rather have that than people being like, oh, well, yeah, I don't want any of that. And you have plenty of product on hand because no one's buying it. So on the positive side of it, people are buying the product. People love the product. People want the product. So I mean, that's the best way you can look at it, really. You just do your best to get as much out as you can. But Jarrid, hey, thanks for coming on the show, and we really appreciate you coming on. It was a great time. We've had a lot of fun. I hope you enjoyed the soap review. That's always a highlight. I hope you had a good time with us, and hopefully you come back on in the future.
That was it for me. I would love to. Thank you all for having me. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. So before we do go, anyone have any closing statements they want to make? I know Jarrid kind of already touched on kind of what's to come, for them and at Kristoff in the next few months. But Jarrid, anything else you want to say before we close up?
No, just keep supporting the brand. We appreciate the business very much. We appreciate the platform that Matt, Nicole, John, you guys have given us to be able to talk about this on social media channels. And as we were talking about earlier, it's going to get more and more important that content improves. And so I appreciate the opportunity. I appreciate you, stepping in and trying to do something in an industry that's kind of seen the same faces for a really long time. So really, thanks to you guys. Thank you to all the consumers that support the product and everyone watching, and just keep coming back to these channels and channels like it for information, because we're excited to be part of it.
Awesome.
Absolutely. John just texted me. I know his computer battery is running out. So John, really quickly, anything you want to say?
So we've got the next episode of Hacking Gourmet on Monday, June 7th. That'll be live from Maine. So we've got that going on, and we just started putting out the information on the June 23rd Gourmet Smoke Session, and then also we'll be doing on July 4th. We'll be announcing within the next week our July 4th Gourmet Smoke Session Extravaganza and Fireworks Show. So we'll be doing a cigar paired with dinner and cigar paired with a fireworks show. So all that will be coming up. But next episode on Monday, June 7th.
You didn't have to do all that for Nicole's birthday.
I know, right?
America.
The man of the people.
I
Man
know.
of the people.
I was born on the 4th of July. I was a firework.
I know.
Man.
It's interesting. Guys, thank you for watching. Jarrid, thanks for being with us. John, as always, thank you for being with us. And we will see you all next week.
See ya.